My coworkers invited me to a lake trip. I wish I stayed home. I've been at my job for about a year now. It's had its ups and downs, but overall, it's been something I've really learned to enjoy. As crazy as that sounds, the only thing that really made me keep searching for jobs in private was the paycheck. For the work I was doing, I should have at least been making double what I was getting. Plus, the building wasn't air conditioned, and that summer heat can get pretty brutal. What made it bearable even on the hottest of days, though, were my two coworkers. I'll call them Mike and Dave for the sake of anonymity. We'd all become pretty close friends in my time at the company, and that friendship had even expanded outside of work. We'd hit the bars sometimes, maybe catch a movie. We just enjoyed each other's company. We went through the hard shit together, and I think we kind of just bonded over it. Writing this now, I'm almost getting teary-eyed. This whole experience has kind of altered the way I see the two of them, even though I know it's not their fault. Like I said, the pay at this job was barely enough to keep my head above water. Plus, with the manual labor, holding on was beginning to become unbearable, especially in July. I'd applied for jobs before, but I was never really serious about it. I was just casting lines, I suppose. I don't know why this day was so different. Maybe it was the heat. Maybe it was the mandatory overtime. All I know is when I applied for a new job this time, I was serious. It took a few days, but the company eventually got back to me. They wanted to schedule an interview. The day came, and I went to the interview. It went swimmingly. They were basically handing me the job. A nice, cool office building, salary pay, plus my very own cubicle. It was impossible to say no. The day after the interview, I turned my 2 weeks' notice into my manager. He was disappointed, but overall, he was understanding. Mike and Dave, however, basically had complete meltdowns. There was some anger, there was some frustration, but in the end, we all agreed to keep in touch. We'd still see each other, just not on a daily basis anymore. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, I got a text from Mike. "Hey man, we all gotta hang out before you leave. We may not have the same schedules after this." Me and Dave were thinking to have a lake trip. "There's this great spot that I know, if you're interested." I responded with a resounding yes. A few beers with some buddies on the lake sounded incredible. Again, impossible to say no. Mike replied with, "Great, I'll send you the location. We can meet up after work on Friday." The week went on like normal. We all joked around. Everyone teased me for leaving, but overall, nothing unusual. On Friday after work, I drove home to get showered and grab a few things for the night, including beer, a sleeping bag, and 3 full bottles of bug spray. As I was packing the bag, I got a text from Dave. He had sent me the location. I stared at my phone and felt my stomach drop. I hadn't expected the lake to be an hour and 30 minutes out. He followed up with, "We're on the way now." So naturally, I pushed my feelings aside and hurried out the door. It was already 5:45 p.m., and I was burning daylight. I drove a little over the speed limit for nearly the entire drive. All the while, a million things ran through my mind. My new job, my old job, how annoyed I was at how long this drive was, how excited I was to spend the night on the lake with my friends. Mainly annoyed at how long the drive was though. The closer I got, the more desolate everything became. Less traffic, less gas stations, hell, less road, more trees. When I finally got to the last 10 miles, it was hardly even a road at all. It was more like a dirt path, wide enough for either a family of 4 or a small car. And I had to stay on it for 10 whole miles. The trees made it look darker than it was. They cast shadows over the dirt road that made it seem like the sun had already set. I had to keep my speed between 20 and 30 miles an hour the entire way. And I swore I could hear animals chirping over the thumping of my car's speakers. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity on that road, I came to a clearing. It was where the road ended. I assumed it was where I was supposed to park. I was kind of confused as to how I was the first person there. Mike and Dave had left before me. I assumed that maybe they had stopped off at a convenience store or something to grab some snacks or something. I got out to stretch my legs after the long car ride. While I stretched, I analyzed my surroundings. It looked like I was in the middle of nowhere. Red Solo cups littered the ground, and I could see the deep dirt prints that indicated someone had been doing donuts here recently. As I looked around, I noticed a trail that led deeper into the forest, toward what I assumed to be the lake. I tried texting Mike to check in, but I had 0 cell reception. I figured, fuck it, I'll just walk down and see what I can see. I started down the path and followed it for about a mile. I swear, I had this weird feeling of being watched the entire time. I kept hearing sticks breaking behind me. I even thought I heard footsteps a few times, but anytime I looked behind me, they'd stop and there'd be no one there. I ignored my nerves and kept walking. When I reached the end, I was amazed at the scene that lay before me. The lake was absolutely gorgeous. The sun bounced off the crisp blue water. A breeze ran through my hair. The sound of crickets and cicadas filled the crisp forest air. It was like I was in heaven. I sat on a rock near the edge of the lake, just taking in the scenery while I waited for my friends. I'm not sure how much time passed, but eventually, I heard the unmistakable sound of a twig snapping behind me again. Only this time, when I turned around, I actually saw someone. They were staring at me, peeking at me from behind this tree like a kid playing hide and seek. It looked like Dave, but he was different somehow. He didn't have life in his eyes. His face was stretched somehow, like I was looking at a mask made of Dave rather than Dave himself. He was smiling at me with this intense, hungry-looking smile, like his teeth were a bear trap. And when he spoke, what he said just didn't make sense. Over here, Dawn. The lake's over here. I stared at him for a second, debating on how to respond. While our eyes were locked, he did something with his neck. It was like a horse, or deer, or something. Like he was trying to scratch his back with his head before it snapped back in my direction. Over here, Dawn. The lake's over here. My heart was beating faster now. My fight or flight was beginning to kick in, but I never took my eyes off of him. He never blinked. He just kept peeking at me from behind the tree. Then Mike appeared, standing behind a separate tree. The same lifeless eyes as Dave. The same stretched skin and hungry smile. I was shaking at this point. I don't know how I managed to call out to them, but I did. Guys, I don't know if this is a prank because you're mad about me leaving, or if you just wanted to fuck with me, but this isn't funny. There was silence for a moment. Then two, then three. Finally, Mike replied in a voice that sounded more like mine than his. This isn't funny. My eyes darted toward the trail I had come from. It was about 30 feet away from me and 50 away from them. I took my chances, and I absolutely booked it. I have never ran faster in my life. The mile felt like nothing, because I was too focused on the sound of sticks breaking behind me. It sounded like entire trees were snapping like toothpicks, and the ground felt like it was shaking from the weight of whatever was behind me. When I reached the clearing, I was still the only car there, and I basically slid across my hood trying to get to my door. I peeled out of the clearing as fast as my car would allow, and when I looked in my rearview mirror, I saw them again. Mike and Dave, peeking at me from behind the trees. I must have burned through a half tank of gas flying down that dirt road. When I finally reached the main road and cell signal returned, the first thing I did was call Dave. It rang for a few seconds before he picked up, sounding as cool as a cucumber. You, Dawn, where you at? What the fuck do you mean, where am I at? Where the fuck are you at? We're at the lake, dude. We've been waiting on you for like an hour. I paused. An hour? I was just at the lake. I swear you two were there, but your cars weren't. Nah, man. We both got our cars. All that's missing is yours, cutie. Hold on, let me look. There was silence for a moment while Dave looked at his message to me. Okay, so, don't hate me. I may have sent you the wrong location. The one I sent was for a party I went to last week. Can't believe you drove all the way out there without even checking. Haha. I just hung up the phone and drove home in silence. Mike and Dave both kept calling me periodically throughout the night. I just kept sending them to voicemail. The call stopped at around midnight, but Dave still sent me one last message, a picture of the lake they were at, and a single text that read, over here, Dawn. The lake's over here.